All right, y'all. So I decided that I was just gonna give it to Deku, bro. We're just gonna give Deku Obito's powers. I sit up here for a while wondering, like, you know, who. But you know what? I think we're gonna start doing this thing where I upload like in a row. So like I basically upload the 4 verses that I cover. Also, Black Clover ends in 3 chapters. Are you serious? Anyways, if you guys did have a happy new year, this should go up literally the day of New Year's, but like, like the first, theoretically, probably won't. But hey, thank you guys for watching these what ifs. It means a lot. Happy New Year's, and without further ado, let's get into the My Hero Academia what if. What if Deku had Obito's abilities? So to start off the story, I want to make it pretty clear that the story is not going to be like, what if Deku had Obito's abilities, like in like the regular sense. Like he's not gonna just have his abilities, right? Like he's not just gonna have a Sharingan and like that's it. And I mean that in the sense of, okay, you know what, let's just get into the story. You see what I'm talking about. So fast forward to like at a hospital, and we see Hayashi and we see Inko, and they're basically with Deku, and he's like a baby at this point, Azuki, right? And so when Deku is born, basically Hishashi tells the doctor that Azuku is basically like from a special lineage, or there's a special lineage in their family called the Uchiha from a long time ago. And basically, Hasashi tells the doctors that he thinks Deku might be quirkless, but he might possess these abilities. The reason why Hayashi tells them this is because if they see anything strange in Deku, that's probably what it is, so that they shouldn't worry or anything. So ultimately, throughout the years, Hasashi did not develop this ability. He did not develop the Uchiha blood because, like after so many generations of going down, there just wasn't any more pure Uchiha. So you keep getting these half-breeds, it like messed up like the bloodline. So there's not that many, like there's a slight chance he has Uchiha blood. But because Deku's the main character, he does. So it's fast forward to the age of 4, and Deku quite literally is like hanging out with Bakugo, and they're like the best of friends and stuff. And Bakugo and them have their little hero agency, and they're just walking around. Eventually the day comes where Bakugo gets his quirk. Now, seemingly Deku had already gotten his quirk at a very young age, with this being energy manipulation, or at least it's what they licensed it as. Hiyashi telling them that would be the best way to move forward, because Hiyashi actually knew what this was. Along with the Uchiha like bloodline is a higher level to use chakra, which Hiyashi obviously knew about through tons of scrolls that have been passed down for generations, like from the Uchiha library type stuff. So Hiyashi ultimately started training like Deku around this point in the story, like at the age of 4. And basically when he went to school, he would show off his energy manipulation and try to like make it seem like it was actually a quirk, but it actually wasn't. It was him using chakra. So with this being said, we then move forward to like Bakugo getting his quirk and saying, "Look at this, Deku. Man, my quirk's really strong. It looks like me and you are really going to become number 1 and 2, the greatest heroes." With Deku agreeing, and clearly Bakugo and Deku being like best friends in this timeline, because there's really no reason for that not to happen, as clearly Bakugo would see the uses for energy manipulation, especially the way Deku has shown it. Deku kind of being like Obito though at his early age would not be nearly as good as somebody like say Itachi or something, or like a Minato, but he's Deku naturally, so he's just really smart, so he would be better than Obito though. He wouldn't be like a complete failure, but like he wouldn't be like weak anyways. Not that Hiyashi would judge Deku anyways, because he can't even use the bloodline in the first place. But anyways, as the years would go on, we'll do like a 4-year time skip around the age of 8. This is when the major situation would happen, as Deku was walking home from school with Bakugo. A villain attack would start as they were literally on the street of their like houses, because I think they live like near each other, right? So anyways, on that day, a villain would try to kill Bakugo, like just straight up. He just tries to kill Bakugo. Bakugo tries to fight back against the villain with his explosion quirk, but this is like an 8-year-old Bakugo. And yeah, this 8-year-old Bakugo is stronger than regular Bakugo, because him and Deku have been training to become number 1 and 2. But like, bro, let's be for real here. Like, it's still an 8-year-old Bakugo. He would be trying, but it looks like it's over. It's like time for Bakugo to get taken out. Like he's about to get taken off the earth. But this is when Deku would come through, and he would slide for his best friend, with his eyes turning sharp red, thinking that his best friend was really about to die in that instance. In that moment, Deku would not only gain the ability to see the movement that the guy was about to throw, but this is when Deku, having trained with his kunai, would throw a kunai at the villain. The villain would then scream out in pain, saying, "Why did you do that, you kid?" And then he would lunge at Deku, leaving Bakugo. And Bakugo's like knocked out at this point, dude. Like, he's 8 years old. And so the villain starts rushing at Deku, but Deku's having none of this. This is when Deku would say, with quick hand signs, he'd say, "Fireball jutsu," and he'd shoot like a giant fireball at like the villain. The villain is just stunned by this, and the villain gets taken out very casually. So ultimately, because of this event happening, this is how Deku would unlock his Sharingan for the first time. And ultimately, Bakugo and him would go to the doctor. Bakugo would get help. His mom show up, and basically they take him back home. So after this event, Bakugo would realize that Deku can turn on and off these red eyes. And obviously, Hayashi would begin to explain the Sharingan to Deku, telling him that this is their clan's specialty. Like, this is what they're really known for, or what they used to be known for back in the old times, he would say. He would say this ability gives him visual, like, prowess enhancement, allowing him to see things better. It would allow him to cast illusions on people through just eyesight alone. And if you unlock higher versions of it, these things increase, also allowing you to copy people's physical attacks, techniques, and all types of other stuff. And it would also allow you access to like even higher forms special jutsu that's only yours. So after all this is said and done, this is when Izuku would note all this down, writing him in notebooks. You know, this is Deku, right? Like, he's gonna write all this stuff down in notebooks. And as the years go on, we're just gonna fast forward to the age of 14 years old, because I don't really see a reason to just keep us at this point in the story. Nothing else crazy happens. But due to training, Deku would unlock the Tsutomoe Sharingan, but that's about as good as he would get it. He wouldn't get it anywhere beyond this, simply due to the fact he's not really been in no life or death situations. And the reason he got the second Tomoe was because he got left in the forest one time by accident, literally by accident. And dude had to live on his own for like a week, and he was about to die because, you know, he hadn't eaten anything, you know, he didn't have that much water. And in those life or death situations against those quirk enhanced like creatures in the forest, dude unlocked the second Tomoe. So that's how that happened. But with that being said, this is when we fast forward to the 14 years old. The teacher would walk into the class and he would say, "Oh, well, I guess you guys really need to start thinking about your futures." But then he would throw all like the papers in there and be like, "No, I'm just playing. I know you guys just want to be heroes." And then the whole class just goes crazy with their quirks, with Deku just chilling, like just studying, right? Like studying more like Uchiha books. Like, this dude's literally reading scrolls in class. Like, he's trying to get as good as he can. And between the age of 8 and 14, you better believe Deku has been working on his genjutsu abilities, because why the heck would he not work on his genjutsu abilities, bro? Like, obviously he needs to work on those. Like, he needs to be able to put people in illusions, because that can be helpful for hero work. Like, it can be good for like ending attacks without getting any civilian casualties. Like, it's a major like buff to his job or what he wants to do. Like, Deku in this timeline is still someone, because like, think about it like this. Like, the best way to fuse him and Obito even slightly without him being his reincarnation would be to be like, he wants to be the Hokage, right? So he would literally just want to be the best hero still. That's what Deku wants to be. He wants to be the greatest hero. And to be the greatest hero, this is just the way to do it. So I'll get into Deku's abilities when they become relevant, but for right now, they're not really relevant, which actually won't be that long. But so anyways, Deku, after reading, like just reading the scrolls, Bakugo would stand up on the chair and say, "Hey, don't let me and Izuku in with these bums teach. We're going to be like number 1 and 2 best." And he would say, "I'm going to be number 1 and Deku's going to be number 2. With Deku in this timeline not even acknowledging that at all. He's just like, "Yeah, sure, whatever," in his head, but he doesn't actually say anything out loud. And everybody in the class is like, "Yeah, that's probably true," because they're like monsters, right? Like, dude, they're like they're so high like tier at this point that quite literally pro heroes have like contracted them to help them. Like, that's how broken like Bakugo and Deku are at this time. Like, I hate to say this, but in any what if where Bakugo and Deku are just best friends, like with Deku having like his intellectual capabilities and being able to help Bakugo's quirk go even further, and them just training like crazy, they're going to be monsters by this time in the story already. Like, they would have just become so much stronger. So ultimately, like, Bakugo is just like lazing himself, and Deku isn't carried. But then the teacher's like, well, looking at your guys' scores, I can definitely see that that's a highly possibility. You guys are definitely going to get into UA, which I can see you want to do. And then being like, yeah, obviously we're going to go to UA. We want to be the greatest heroes. So anyway, the class lets out, and Deku says he's going to go watch the Stranger Things finale because, well, it just came out. It's New Year's, so he's going to go watch that. And Bakugo's like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to go watch that too. I got to go see how L's story ends. By the way, peak finale, I loved it. It was amazing. I know people are hating on it, but everybody hates on everything. So anyways, as they split, they decide to, Deku's going down the regular place he went in the main timeline when the sludge villain just tries to sneak him. But Deku's heightened senses, no chance. Deku turns around, like ninja, like he just kind of gets distance between him and the sludge villain, with sludge villain saying, how are you so incredible? What? How were you able to react to me off senses alone? Yeah, but before Sludge Villain can really even finish this thought, like Deku's already making hand signs, and he just says fireball jutsu. Like he just shires a fireball, and the Sludge Villain's like, what the heck? He has fire powers or fire manipulation, and he just like barely dodges the fireball, but not really. He still gets hit by the fireball, but he just doesn't get taken out by it. But this is when he would make more hand signs. And he fired a great fireball juice, and this time so that he knew for a fact he wouldn't be able to dodge it. Seeing how he barely dodged the first one, and Sludge Villain gets hit by great fireball jutsu, and he's just like kind of done. So after getting hit by great fireball jutsu and the Sludge Villain being splattered everywhere, it's when All Might will come falling out of the sky saying, I am here, but to be shocked because the Sludge Villain is all over the place, and he just see a boy standing there. All Might would say, hey, young man, are you the one that's responsible for taking on this villain? Now, just like in the main timeline, Deku is still a huge All Might fan. So he wants him to sign his books and stuff, being shocked that he already signed them. And they start picking up the Sludge Villain, with All Might actually not dropping the Sludge Villain in this timeline and just going on his way. So with this being said, Deku goes home, watch the Stranger Things finale with his mom and dad. That's what he would do. And then he goes to sleep. Then starts the month training. Him and Bakugo decide to go into the forest and fight Quark the monsters. Monsters. I said monsters. What am I talking about? Quark animals, like animals that have quirks, and they just start boxing and battling with them. During this time, getting invitations from more pro heroes like maybe Fat Gum or Ryuku, and they're just getting these contracts with them because they're very strong, and they go to these agencies and they tell them like how strong they are, and they want to test them, and they're young, and like why not? And so like they meet a lot of people a lot earlier than they do in the main timeline, but that's besides the point. Doesn't really matter. Just know they was out here in the streets when they was younger. They was like out here really built different. So anyways, after all this is said and done, we then see like the 10 months pass really fast. So after this all happens, we then see like Deku and Bakugo getting dropped off by Inko to go take the entrance exam because it's about that time to take it. So they go in there, they start just talking to each other, having a great time. Deku doesn't trip in this main timeline because, in the main timeline because Unaraka, he's just not stupid. He's just not a klutz. Even though Obito was a little klutz, even though Deku's a little klutz, I'm gonna be saying both of them combined, that just wouldn't happen. So he goes in there, he starts talking, with Bakugo. Ida has a problem with it. He starts talking about the 0-pointer isn't on the paper and you guys are talking too much. Be quiet. And they just roast him. Everybody just starts laughing. The President Mike starts laughing. You get the picture. So the entrance exam starts and everybody's sitting up here like, bro, what is really going on? Like, what is about to happen? Because they just been told about all these robots and stuff. And then there's this secret 0-pointer, which both Bakugo and Deku are hyped about, because let's believe Bakugo and Deku can both destroy the 0-pointer in this timeline. I don't really think I need to emphasize that. So anyways, Deku, before Ida can even say anything, is already at the front. And he looks to his right and notices Unaraka, who I'm just going to be saying is going to be like his Ren in this timeline. So Unaraka, Deku ship, most likely happening. I don't really know how I'm going to do it, but you'll get the point. So ultimately, he starts talking to her, and Unaraka's like, man, this is going to be our future. This is going to decide everything. And then Deku's like, yeah, it is. It's pretty scary stuff. Deku just trying to comfort her because dude is not worried at all. He's already 100% sure he's getting in. So President Mike says, go, go, go. There's no real goes in a real battle or something. I still don't know what this man says, and I've heard it 7 times since I made my last My Hero What If. I still don't know. But anyways, there's no goals in the robot. I feel like that's what he says. Anyways, so Deku jumps and he like goes out, and Unaraka is shocked by his speed, and Deku is moving like a ninja. And now Deku, having chakra manipulation, can do more than a regular hero. So this dude is running up walls, and like he actually over the years had like been working, like through his work had been getting Deku the special ninja tools that he needs to be a true ninja. Because like, you know, the Uchiha aren't just like his lineage, like bro, it's literally the Uchiha clan from Naruto. So like they also used all the ninja stuff too. So like bro really was out here getting him shuriken and kunai, and like the even the like he would even figure out a way to like get the explosive attacks. Like he would get people to look at him and then make more. Like they'd be shocked by this. They're like, what kind of technology did they even use for these things? But like Bo would even have the explosive tags. Now he wouldn't have a lot of explosive tags because they would still be studying and learning how they even made him in the first place. But you know, Deku would figure it out that it's like a seal thing, and then he would figure it out. So he makes them now. So but he doesn't have that many. So Deku is just going through them, throwing like kunai with like chakra enhanced kunai at like these robots. And Deku has beaten like, let's say like 7 3-pointers. He's beaten like 4 or 5 like freaking two woos and 1-pointers. So Deku has already gotten like 55 points, and like everybody's kind of shocked by this because he's just going so fast. Like they can't even keep up, and they're just like, how is he running on the walls? And how is he so fast? Is he got a speed quirk? Like, does he have like what is his quirk? Like, is he just trained well, and then like he just has a quirk that lets him move on like the side? But then I'm like, that doesn't make sense because how are like the kunais and the shuriken like crushing the robots? Like, how are they going inside and breaking them? Like, they just don't understand. But Deku does not care. He's just out here. So Deku would literally just shinobi basics like physical attacks, kunai, shuriken. He destroys about like, let's say like 40 robots. He would destroy like 20 3-pointers, 10 2-pointers, and he would destroy 10 1-pointers. Very, very casually. So Deku's just continuing his rampage of destroying multiple robots. Like it's almost looking like he's going to clear out the whole thing. But this is when he decides to stop at like 100 points. He stops at like 100 points because he's like, well, if I keep going, I'm going to destroy the whole exam site. So the teachers in the exam room are just losing it. They're like, who is this kid? What is his listed like abilities? And Nezu says his listed abilities are, well, his father at the age of 1 said that he would have like maybe his quirk already, but then again it's listed as energy manipulation at like 3. And like Nezu's just kind of confused by this like pattern because it doesn't really make any sense to him. He's like, how does this kid have energy manipulation, but he's running up the wall and he's throwing kunai and shuriken with the strength enough to go through the robots and destroy them in one fell swoop? Like those things aren't adding up. But more or less, he says that energy manipulation could do these things, but it seems more like he's doing something entirely different because energy manipulation quirks, they don't function like this. They don't function this potent. They're not this impressive. But Deku just like, you know, continues to do really well. So anyways, they heard this giant sound and it's like the 0-pointer coming. And Unaraka, like, she gets trapped under the rubble just like in the main timeline. And Deku seeing Unaraka, dude just decides to use his speed to come over there. He throws the rubble off, grabs Unaraka, and after he saves Unaraka, dude just casually goes. Like, he goes up and he then blows the 0-pointer's head off with a great majestic destroyer flame, which is Madara Uchiha's like move. And basically it just annihilates the top portion, like from the upper body, like up, it's just gone. Like it's just no more. And everybody in the like examinatory room is shocked. Like All Might's like, kid, I didn't know you were this strong. Like seriously, like I know you took down that sludge villain, but like this. And this is when like Eraserhead would say that this kid might be the kid that I was told about from like Ryuku and like Fat Gum, who might be participating in that. Also did some hero work with them over his 10-month training period. And Nezu hearing all these things, like All Might already met him, Eraserhead's heard good things about him, the potential. Nezu, like after the exam is finished, makes sure he gets to talk to Deku and says him and his friend Bakugo get a full ride scholarship to UA because they have too much potential to like let go to waste. Deku is grateful for this and he is let go, with him scoring a total because he saved Unaraka along with destroying the 0-pointer, which normally doesn't get points, but because like dude, like he literally incinerated the top portion of it, he would literally be given like 170 points, which is like the most ever, I think, even more than All Might's. and he would beat Bakugo by like 20, because Bakugo literally did the same thing to his 0-pointer in his test site, destroying it with like a howitzer impact, which you would already know in this timeline, because once again Bakugo is busted. So after this happens, we would then like head on to them both getting into Inko's car and both telling her that they did well, with Deku breaking the news and telling Bakugo that he and him got a full ride scholarship to UA and that they've already been accepted in. And Bakugo, just hearing this, would say, yeah, I knew you would, but that's insane. You must have really went crazy too. And he's like, yeah, did you destroy the 0-pointer? And Bakugo says, yeah, I destroyed it too. So yeah, Inko's just shocked by this, and they go home. Well, not they drop Bakugo off, and then they go home, and then, you know, Inko and him celebrate, with Hiyashi not being there because he's like at work, but they celebrate. So anyways, after all this happens, this is when we would then see them prepare for UA for a week, with him and Bakugo getting all the stuff they need, you know, training a little bit more, you know, getting ready for UA. So they arrive on the first day. They're like, dang, these gates are big. Who goes to this school? And after that, they go in, they get told where classroom, class 1A is, because, well, they need some help because it's a big school. And they go to class 1A. I'm going to be saying Nejire helps them because just see that happening. And ultimately, they get in the classroom, and they're the first ones there. Deku, being all observant, notices there's a sleeping bag on the floor, and is just kind of shocked. He's like, okay, wonder what that is. They both sit down. Bakugo puts his feet up. Ida comes in and starts complaining because dude is like, get your feet off the table, dude. Like, that's not cool. And Deku just does not care. He's just letting them deal their own deal like he usually does. And Deku just starts pulling out some scrolls and reading them. But eventually, Unaraka comes in the classroom, and she is like, hey, it's you, the boy who saved me. The boy with, like, the fire. And she doesn't know what to say because she genuinely doesn't even know what his quirk is. This is what Unaraka would say with a smile, like, hey, what actually is your quirk? With more students being in the classroom now, Deku would actually look up because, you know, he's kind of feeling her, you know what I'm saying? But not only that, you know, they kind of got like a friendly thing going on. It's not even just that. But this is actually a good question that he wouldn't mind helping. Just before Deku can answer, though, this is when like the last few students would come into the classroom, and Aizawa would say, hey, it took you guys 5 minutes to calm down. With everybody getting into their seats, and Aizawa telling them that they're going to go take a quirk apprehension test. So they all are told to go put these on and then meet me outside. So they all go do that before Deku can say what his quirk is. I know it's kind of crazy, but I mean, they're literally coming in by the bunches, right? So not that crazy. So anyways, after this happens, we would then see Deku be told that he has a manly body because dude has been training for since 4. So yeah, he's going to be built by Kirishima. He stops Mineta from peeping because he says, why not? And then after that, they get outside. Because Deku scored the most on the entrance exam, he's told to throw the ball as far as he can. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I genuinely don't know how he would throw this really far. So what I'm just gonna say is he just infuses chakra into his arm and just launches it. I feel like that's the best way to do it. And he gets 1,000 meters, with everybody being stunned by this, saying 1,000 meters? What? That's impossible. He just threw it with his strength. And this is when Deku would finally tell the class that his quirk is energy manipulation. Which I don't see Deku needing to hide from them because A, that's a half truth. It's not even really energy manipulation. It's chakra manipulation, which is technically energy manipulation, but it's life energy, so I don't even know if that's really the case. And then another thing is it doesn't really detail his full capabilities, because with chakra manipulation, he can climb on walls, he can fire, he can shoot fire, he can create lightning because he has lightning and fire infinity. And he can cast Genjutsu with his Sharingan and has enhanced perception. So it's I don't really think he cares if that's you know what I mean? He doesn't care. He has way more stuff in his bag. He's barely begun to show anything. So he just throws the ball and tells him it's energy manipulation. So with enhanced chakra abilities, and Bakugo being his only real challenge outside of Momo, because she can literally just create anything for the perfect obstacle, Deku would slightly be above Momo. So it would go like this. It'd be Deku, Momo, and Bakugo at the top 3 in the class, with Momo barely being Bakugo because dude's been training like crazy. But the truth is not even he has a physical enhancement quirk, so he can't do everything just broken, right? He can't just break everything. Momo literally has a quirk that can create anything she needs, so she would still be second, but just barely in the front of Bakugo. So this is the top 3 in the class. Aizawa admits it was all just a logical ruse, so nobody gets expelled. He calls Deku back and tells him to go in more detail about his abilities, with Deku just half truthing it, saying it's literally just energy manipulation and that he can use it to enhance his strength. Which Aizawa is like kind of sure there's way more to it than this, because he want to question about how did he do the fireball then, but then he thinks maybe like he has two different applications of energy manipulation, so he just dismissed Deku, and All Might would still be looking at Deku because, well, he thinks he's a worthy successor, and we're just gonna be saying he hasn't given it to Mirio yet. So, anyways, with this happening, we then fast forward to the heroes versus villains, which is going to get speed blitzed because there's no real reason to cover this. We're just going to be saying, because I want this to be more interesting, we're just going to be putting the strongest in the class against each other. So we'll just say Deku gets Momo, and they're going to go up against Bakugo and Todoroki. So All Might is over the intercom, and he's like, hero team start. So Momo and him being like top tier strategists, and Deku knowing an easy way to take both of Todoroki and like Bakugo out would just be to hit them with Genjutsu, which would literally just knock both of them out. He basically tells Momo to make sure she can create something that gets them in close. Deku using his Sharingan would just look up because he can literally like see through things, and he would just see Bakugo and like Todoroki's chakra signature. Todoroki being told by Bakugo to not freeze the whole building because he actually wants to take Deku on like as a real challenge, no cheap stuff. He wouldn't do that, which wouldn't even work anyways, because Deku would just burn the ice. So anyways, they get to the top room, and Momo throws like a flash grenade in, and Bakugo and Todoroki get stunned by this. But immediately, Bakugo clears out the smoke with his explosions, right? So anyways, Deku gets in the middle of the room, and he activates his Sharingan. And considering he knows how strong Bakugo is off rip, and he knows how Todoroki has two quirks, it would just be better to take him out now. He tells Momo to give him like a shield, so he does. Todoroki throws like ice wall. He tries to hit Deku with it. Deku uses a substitution from behind the shield, which caught Todoroki off guard. He doesn't know where he is, but this is when Deku would just appear over Todoroki. Todoroki would roll out of the way. He would stagger up to look Deku right in his eyes with his Sharingan blazing. And next thing Todoroki knows, he's sitting in like a bench. On a bench, right? And he's just like, wait, what just happened? Why am I on a bench? What's going on? So he's just lost. So in real time, Todoroki is just standing there, like knocked out, right? So Momo has officially taken on Bakugo. And low-key, seeing that Todoroki got taken out, and Momo was doing a pretty good job of holding off Bakugo with her shield and her creative abilities, he would just say, forget even fighting Bakugo. It's not even necessary. He would just go over there to the bomb and then tap it. And All Might would come over there and come and say, hero team wins. And this is when Deku would release Todoroki from the Genjutsu, with Todoroki coming back and saying, what the heck was that? What did you do to me? With Deku not even saying anything and just taking him and Momo back to the room where everybody is just lost, because to them on the screen, it looked like Todoroki just went into a daze after Deku looked at him, and then he just went to go touch the bomb, and he did absolutely nothing else. He was just scared or something to do anything. So, yeah, Deku doesn't even explain this to the class, so they still don't even know what happened to Todoroki. Todoroki's just noting this down and noting that Deku can do something that seems to warp reality in his head, or maybe actually, but he's not really sure. And basically, All Might says Momo is the MVP because she's the reason that... Because see, once again, All Might doesn't know about Genjutsu either, and because of that, to him, it just looked like Todoroki stopped engaging. It just he stopped. So to him, Momo being the one that come up with the... Also, he doesn't even know about the Sharingan, so he didn't even know that Deku was the one who actually mapped out the place and told them where the bomb was or anything like that. So they all just think Momo is just the MVP because she held up Bakugo, she stunned Todoroki and Bakugo, and not only that, she got Deku in close enough to get there. And honestly, I don't even think they would have saw the substitution jutsu that Deku used either. The only person who would really just know who the real MVP was of this event were the people that actually took it, which were Momo, Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki. They're the only ones that actually know Deku definitely was the MVP in that. But Momo doesn't really... she just knows that he can do some crazy stuff. Bakugo literally just knows how strong he is, and Todoroki knows that he got trapped somewhere he could do nothing in. So ultimately they know it, but nobody else does. So anyways, after this event, we see a week pass by with Aizawa during this week telling the students to make sure they give this to their parents to sign a permission slip to go to the USJ, the unforeseen simulation joint. And after this happens, we would then see the students on their way there. Sue drops the question of who's the strongest in the class, which they would all immediately say that it's probably like, I'm not even gonna fly, they probably say it's like Bakugo or Deku. They'd actually be struggling because Bakugo's not only stronger than he was in the main timeline, but Todoroki is just completely knocked out because dude just stood there while Deku touched the bomb. They're kind of shook by this. Some might even say Momo just because of how well she did in the thing, but like ultimately they're between Deku and Bakugo. With Bakugo saying it's definitely him and Deku just not caring at all, reading scrolls. So as they walk into the USJ, they're greeted to the hero 13, and 13 starts giving this boring speech about how you need to use your powers correctly, which is something that Hayashi had been drilling into Deku like his whole life, like precision, accuracy, doing the right thing. His clan is known for this. So ultimately, Deku just, with his heightened senses along with Aizawa's heightened senses, they had both sensed like this portal opening in like the middle of the USJ. And they both look down to see a bunch of villains coming out of it, right? So they immediately are like, hey, is that... And they both say at the same time. And Aizawa immediately tells them, hey, don't you dare. 13, protect the students. Those are real villains. So Aizawa like jumps down there, like, you know, he starts boxing these villains up. And Shigaraki along with Kurogiri and the Nomu come out. And, you know, they're just chilling, you know, watching Aizawa just work. And so the students try to dip. But this is when Kurogiri will pull up. And, you know, Kurogiri's like, now I need to separate all of you. So you're my brethren or my colleagues can kill you because we're here to kill the similar piece. But, like, dude, like, he then sees himself in, like, a garden. Like, he would see himself in, like, a garden. He would just be like, wait, what? I was just in the USJ. And dude would try to warp away, but he can't warp away from the garden. He's like, why am I in a garden? This is when, like, it would be, like, revealed that he was in a genjutsu, and, like, bro quite literally is just standing there in real time. This is when Deku tells 13 that he's immobilized. He won't be able to break out of that anytime soon. And this is when he tells 13 that he's going to go help Aizawa because he's not about to let his teacher die fighting tons of villains on his own. So this is when Deku jumps down and Bakugo's like, oh, if he's getting in some action, I am too. And Todoroki being like mad because he got mobbed by Deku was like, nah, I'm going down there too. So those top 3 people in the class, they jump down and they just start beating up villains with Aizawa. So Shigaraki, noticing how the students A have not gotten cornered, and B, like how they haven't got like sent over the place, and B, how they just literally walked out, and Ida is still running to get All Might, and how Kurogiri hasn't coming back, is low-key starting to think that this dude actually get taken out by students. But this is when he would had enough of this and say, Nomu, kill Aizawa. So Aizawa, like, he barely dodges this Nomu, like, punch, right? And he starts nullifying his quirks. And it becomes very quick to Aizawa that there ain't no chance this dude has of trying to, you know, tank any of these blows. So this is when Deku would come in, grab Aizawa, throw him out of the way, and then substitute out of the Nomu's attack that was thrown at Aizawa. And this is when Shigaraki would say, oh, these brats are using cheat codes. Kill all the brats. And Aizawa. So this is when the Nomu would start jumping, like trying to take out all 3. So Todoroki would shoot a giant ice geyser at him, which does nothing. The Nomu just breaks it. Then Bakugo comes in with a howitzer impact, which, because he's really strong, it actually sends the Nomu back a little bit, but not that much. And then the Nomu tries to strike him, but Deku literally doing the same thing he just did for Aizawa, throwing Bakugo out of the way and then substituting out of the way. This is when he would stop playing defense though, and he would activate his Sharingan, getting it close to the Nomu and then trying to put him under a Genjutsu, just like he did to Kurogiri. And to his shock, this does not work at all. This is when Deku realizes that whatever this thing is does not have a brain, and it basically just only responds to orders. This is when Deku, you know, skipping back, you know, on some ninja stuff, creating some space between him and the Nomu, where they start doing hand signs. He'd say, majestic destroyer flame, and a gigantic, like, destroyer flame would just come out and right at the Nomu, and like no dip, like no yadi. This thing just gets like obliterated. Like, I'm sorry to tell you, but Deku, knowing how like potent this thing is, just from seeing how like his like punches are shattering the wood that's left after he substitutes, Bro just pours every ounce of chakra that he can into that thing. Like, right, like he just fires it at the Nomu. And the Nomu is like just halfway destroyed. But this is when Shigaraki starts maniacally laughing, scratching at his neck and saying, oh, it doesn't really matter at all because guess what? The Nomu has regeneration. And sure as like it was on his cue, the Nomu starts regenerating. But this is when All Might busts the doors and says, I am here. And this is when All Might would just finish up the Nomu by sending it into the crowd. Like, he doesn't even have to try as hard because he's still halfway regenerating. With Shigaraki getting captured because Kurogiri is knocked out in the Genjutsu still, so you can't save him. And so, yeah, Shigaraki and Kurogiri get captured here. So, with that being said, we then move on to the next events in the story, which is Deku getting questioning, and Loki getting questioning by Nezu about his abilities. But Deku still wouldn't say much. He would say basically he used energy manipulation to make it appear as if he was in a different place. But he can only hold it for a few seconds, which is completely capped. That's not even remotely how the ability works. Even though it kind of is what happened, but once again, another partial truth. You know, just trying to hold his abilities for as long as he can. After this happens, the UA Sports Festival is announced. Also, Aizawa didn't get nearly as injured in this one because he literally got help from the top 3 in the class. And Bakugo and Deku are like OP, so he didn't actually get that injured. So he's still performing at pretty good rates. Still recommended Deku and Bakugo and Todoroki, yeah, but did pretty good. So, yeah. Anyways, with this all happening, this is when we would then see the next events take place, which would be the events of the UA Sports Festival. So Todoroki and Bakugo and Deku agree they're going to go their hardest to fight each other at the top. And with that being said, this is when we would see the UA Sports Festival start with Deku having to give a speech. He just gave the greatest speech ever because he's smart and he just gives something that would appeal to the crowd. So after he does that, basically Midnight starts it by telling them they got to do an obstacle race. So everybody's getting ready for this obstacle race. Like, oh man, I don't know what we're gonna do. They're like kind of stuck, like a little shook by the obstacle race. Cause you know, Deku, he don't got no flying. Bakugo, being so much stronger, just thinks he's gonna just fly over this thing, right? That's how much stronger he is. He can just make explosions to fly over this whole thing. Todoroki thinking he's gonna have to lock in. So anyway, Midnight shoots the pistol and they all start running. Deku and Bakugo both easily avoiding Todoroki's little schemes, freeze everybody. And with that being said, they start running. Deku fires great fireballs at the 0 pointers in his way, destroying both of their tops, like destroying their heads and sending them crashing over. Bakugo just throws a huge explosion at one of their heads and it blows. With, you know, that being said, they both just propel through them easily. They get through the mines, the type ropes. I don't know why I said the mines, they're not the last thing, but they get through literally all the obstacles until they get to the mines. And Deku and Bakugo are just going neck and neck at this point. With Deku's Sharingan allowing him to see exactly where the mines are and easily dodging them. With Bakugo just flying over them. And Todoroki using his ice to skeet over them. So ultimately, all 3 of them are pretty close. But Bakugo, I just see no way he doesn't win. He literally just wins. So yeah, he's 1, Deku's 2, and Todoroki's 3. So ultimately, Bakugo gets the 10 million point headband in this timeline. And it doesn't even matter because him, Todoroki, and Deku are going to form a 3-man team along with Momo because, yeah. And basically what happens is this team is so broken that they literally get every headband. I'm not even joking. With Deku Sharingan, he literally is able to note the precise moment that they should strike. And Bakugo being able to literally just jump off the top and just go and collect other headbands. And Todoroki's defense, along with Mo being able to create any object they need, they literally just steal every headband everybody has. And it's unprecedented. President Mike is shook by this. He can't believe what just happened. And so ultimately what ends up happening is they just have to pick 16 students through other methods. Like they would play rock, paper, scissors. Like they would do like arm wrestling contests to determine the other 16 that get to participate because they just didn't have any headbands. So that's what would happen. And after this would happen, the 16 would be picked, with Shinzo surprisingly still being in it. So this is when we see Shinzo versus Deku, with Deku actually not getting the tip from Shoji this time, but he doesn't need it. So Shinzo tries to get Deku to talk, you know, but this is when Deku just spins his Sharingan, which actually alarms like Shinzo because he just sees this happen, and he just puts Shinzo under like Genjutsu. And Shinzo literally gets Shinzo because, like, you know, like he's trying to get him to go out the ring. Well, guess what? Now he's going out the ring. So Shinzo goes out of the ring. Like, it's kind of sad. And like after this happens, everybody's just stunned by this, but they all start clapping, noting that they probably seen something extremely phenomenal. Not even really being able to process what it was, but they probably saw something phenomenal. So after this happens, we then see like the other matches take place. We get to the second battle for Deku, and it'd be against Ida, with Ida coming in at full speed, just trying to hit Deku, with Deku actually having to try against Ida because his speed is kind of a problem. But this is when Deku would lure Ida right into his trap. He'd make hand signs for a fireball jutsu, fire to Ida, which he knew he'd dodge, but he wanted Ida to come on a specific side. So when Ida tries to, Deku's ready. He jumps over his leg. He throws a kunai right in the back of one of Ida's engines because he wanted this perfect angle. It stops Ida from being able to move. He crashes to the ground. And this is when Deku, in that instant, would speed over to Ida and put a kunai at like his neck because he's allowed to use these because he says it's like support items or whatever. Which he doesn't have that many. He can only use like 3. So he had to be very specific with them, which is why he didn't just spam them at Ida's like things. But ultimately, Deku cleans Ida to the ground and says, surrender. And Ida does because, well, he has no choice. So Ida loses to Deku. And then we get the third match, which would be Deku versus Todoroki. So Todoroki pulls Deku to the side and tells him about his family life, his family problems, like all his problems, right? And Deku's like, yeah, that's cool and all, but you're going to use your full power against me, right? And Todoroki's like, wait, what? And he's like, well, yeah, because it's your quirk. And then Todoroki's like, wait, what? I never thought about it that way. But ultimately, Todoroki and Deku, they're like, you know, they reach a common ground right there, then and then. They don't have to step onto no court because Deku's not like a little scaredy baby. He tells them it right there and then. So when Todoroki gets on the court, he's using his fire and ice. So Deku is cooked. Like he can't really do anything. Like having Uchiha blood is pretty cool. Like he can read all the Todoroki's fire and ice, but dude is getting overwhelmed by both, right? Especially from like 100% Todoroki going all out from the beginning. Yeah, bro is getting kind of like, he's getting like short-sighted. He can counter his ice and he can counter his fire with his own fire, but his fire is like it has to be channeled through chakra. So he can't just like do it. He has to make all these hand signs. And Deku's hand signs aren't as refined as like Jonin level Shinobi. He's like shooting level at best at this point. So Deku gets hit with a very devastating combination of ice and fire, and he starts crashing, going almost out of bounds when it happens. Just like Sasuke against Naruto, through having an intense battle, he starts to unlock it right then and there, the third Tomoe. Which, because of this allows him to actually react even before Todoroki throws attacks. So now dude is just quite literally moving so fast because he can react to everything Todoroki's doing so fast that he's actually able to close the distance. But this is when it will be revealed the whole time after Todoroki fires a giant fire attack at like Deku that was a clone and he had actually gotten him. So Deku finally gets close to him and he quite literally unleashes a point blank fire stream jutsu, which is like the giant fire like spiral jutsu. This is actually what I meant to say, the fire spiral jutsu. So yeah, Todoroki gets sent out with not 7-degree burns or anything, but you know, some pretty severe burns, but he's alive because Deku nerfed it. And yeah, Deku barely beats Todoroki at an extreme diff fight, but just barely wins due to unlocking the third Tomoe. After this happens, it would be the finals, and it would be Bakugo versus Deku, which, not gonna lie to you, Bakugo low-key having explosions, and Deku only being able to reach Bakugo by literally creating, like, fire jutsu, because that's really all he has. Like, he doesn't really have any lightning jutsu, low-key. Like, dude has lightning enhancement, like, he can use it kind of, but Bo doesn't have, like, crazy lightning jutsu. So, yeah, plus it drains him like crazy when he uses it. So, ultimately, Deku just loses to Bakugo. Like, I don't really see a way he beats him. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Because, like, think about it like this, right? Bakugo can sit in the air and just fire AP shots, which he already has access to. And dude's explosions are massive at this point. Like, he can just fire massive explosions with, like, taking pretty much any time. Like, don't get me wrong, Deku would give him a good fight, but the minute Deku starts piecing up Bakugo through his taijutsu, which, you know, Bakugo is already used to, so he can counter somewhat with his explosion fighting style, I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. It just wouldn't be a good matchup for Deku. Bakugo knows all his abilities, whereas Deku knows all his abilities. But Bakugo's abilities are a little bit better than Deku's abilities right here and right now. Right? That's kind of what I want you to understand. So after this happens, they both agree, and Bakugo is the winner of the UA Sports Festival. But he's the winner fair and square this time, and he actually got to fight like the strongest, who actually performed the strongest he could. So with this being said, the internships roll in, and they decide that they're going to pick their agencies. So I see no reason why we wouldn't see like Deku just go to like, I don't know, I see like Endeavor inviting him, right? Because he has fire manipulation to some degree. So Bakugo clearly is invited by Endeavor, and Todoroki clearly is invited by Endeavor. So all three would just go to like Endeavor, and you know, kind of like they do with like the not the internships, but the hero agency like arc, where you know, like in season 5 or season 6, I think it is. So yeah, basically they do that here, but not really. So after this happens, we would then see them all like basically have that kind of same like dynamic there that they did then. And so the Hosu incident happens, and a bunch of Nomus are released. And just like in the main timeline, Endeavor would be there, except this time he'd be there with Deku and Bakugo. So Deku gets like a ping on his phone from like Ida, and it's like he needs to get there right now because he knows he's in Hosu. So basically Deku and Bakugo, along with Todoroki, would make their way to the alley to find Ida laying down with his leg injured, or maybe it was his arm injured. And basically it would be another hero by the name of Native in the corner, like also taken out. And this is when Stain would look up to say, "More children playing hero." And this is when Deku and Bakugo and Todoroki having none of this would launch at Stain with crazy speed, like, but they're just going at him. So Stain gets negative diff because Bakugo's too strong, Deku's way too strong, Todoroki's too strong. He got kind of jumped, like, I don't know what to tell you. So after this happens, we would then see Stain get captured and the Nomus get taken out. And with all this happening, we would then fast forward to the end of the agency because, yeah, just know that during this time, Deku refined his seal making speed. Like, he can make his hand signs way faster, and he learned even more fire style. And he can actually use lightning style without getting that drain now. So yeah, pretty cool. So after all this happens, we then fast forward to, like I said, the end of the agency, right? So this is when they would all be told about the final exams. I'm pretty sure, right? Like, they'd be told about final exams. So being told about final exams, as I was like, you're gonna have to play, you're gonna have to fight against us teachers. And they're like, wait, for real? We're gonna have to fight against teachers? That's kind of crazy, but they all accept it because, you know, they just got to do it. So they all be studying like crazy for this stuff and all outdoors. But this is when Unaraka and Deku would decide to study together, you know, getting real close and, you know, getting really close together, you know, because they've been close throughout this whole what if. It's just I really haven't been going into detail because it doesn't really matter. But yeah, they'd be really close. So yeah, they study together, they train together a little bit. You know, he taking some time away from his buddy Bakugo, you know, and locking in with, you know, his girl, you know, trying to, you know, do that. So anyways, with all that happening, we then see them basically take the test, and basically just because I don't even think this would be that interesting because Deku would not get paired with Bakugo to fight All Might. That'd just be suicide for All Might. With him getting restraints too, that's just not gonna work. Like, he'd probably get put in a Genjutsu. Yeah, and they just win. So yeah, no, that doesn't happen. So he fights like Midnight, and by fighting Midnight, I don't know, he just fights Midnight with like Mineta. It doesn't matter. He looks at Midnight one time, she falls unconscious, blah 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 blah. Move on to the training camp because they all, or whoever passed in the main timeline, they passed now. So now we're gonna go on to the training camp. So they meet the Wild Wild Pussycats, and they're like, yo, we're gonna make you guys go to the forest, yeah. So they all do that. They all go to the forest because, well, they have no choice. That's what they gotta do. So they all get thrown off the bus, they all go in the forest, and, well, they all make it out alive because they're good. And because Deku's there and is way stronger than the main timeline, they get there maybe like 1 hour earlier than they did in the actual timeline. So with that being said, this is when he would meet Koda, and Koda would try to punch Deku again, but that wouldn't work because he's built different, and he has like the ability to he's just more cold, you know what I mean? So he just wouldn't get hit by him. He'd be ready to perceive this. He doesn't even get the Sharingan out. He's just like that because, he's just been so used to training his eyes, not even just using the Sharingan, but like just training his eyes. He just was ready for it. So after that happens, we then see like them all train for the next 4 or 3 days with Deku once again getting even stronger, pushing out his seal speed and pushing out his fire style and just becoming like the best like version of himself, knowing that he had something or he was on the prefaces of reaching something new, but not knowing what it was, just would be going at it, knowing that he has some way to reach into the higher levels of his dojutsu abilities. Like he just knows that there's something more, but he just can't reach it. But this is all until it happens. The next night, they're all doing the Halloween thing where it's like, oh yeah, man, let's all go and do a test of courage. And so after this happens, then they see it. Blue fire starting to erupt in the forest. The students are terrified. They're running around, lost, scared. Mandalay gives a message through her quirk telling everybody that they can use her quirks to defend themselves. And this is when Bakugo, Deku, and Todoroki lock in. They start taking out villains left and right, actually going on the offensive. But just like in the main timeline, the villains are here for Bakugo. But they're also here to capture Deku because he's strange, you know what I mean? But this isn't just any old intervention because Shigaraki, along with some Nomus, along with All For One, come to claim Deku because why are they here? Like, why is All For One here right now? Because he sees the potential in Bakugo's explosion quirk, and he sees the potential in what he thinks Deku's quirk is, even though it's not a quirk at all. But he's never seen anybody with as many different applications for a quirk as Deku, so he wants to snatch it. So going there himself, along with Shigaraki there, and because he wants to take Search too, like he wants to take that from Pixie Bob, he's there on timing. But before All For One and Shigaraki can get to Deku first, Deku, unlike in the main timeline, is actually with Unaraka in this instance, where while running with his, not official girl, but girl he's close to, they're just chatting it up. And Deku's just kind of protecting her, taking out some fodder villains. And Unaraka's, telling them, leave some for me. I think I can protect myself. But this is just when that girl with blonde hair and like a bun comes out of nowhere and slashes at Unaraka, right? And I'm not going to even lie to you. Unaraka's taken back by this. So she gets slashed, but not just slashed. The girl gets like above Unaraka and actually kicks her on the ground. And Deku, like turning around in an instant and seeing this, is just like dumbfounded by this. And before Deku can even do anything, this girl has stabbed I don't even know what it is that she uses, but she stabs it into Unaraka's arm and she just starts taking blood from Unaraka. And this is obviously Toga. And Deku seeing this is like, what the heck do you think you're doing? Deku speed blitzes Toga and like touches her in the stomach and it sends her flying, crashing off of Unaraka. But she got some of her blood, but didn't get that much. Unaraka's now bleeding because she just literally like stabbed that into her arm and just started taking blood from her. Unaraka is now like severely injured, and Deku's like, "Can you move? Or can you stand?" And Unaraka's like, "Yeah, I'm fine," but she actually got a lot of my blood, and she literally stabbed it right into my arm without any hesitation, and she kind of slashed me in the stomach. Deku, hearing this, is like, okay, and this is when Unaraka would be like, no, we need to get out of here. Don't do anything stupid. And so Deku's like, I guess you're right. So he literally just like princess carries Unaraka now because, well, she kind of like is like injured. So yeah, he starts princess carrying her. And so he's trying to find a teacher or something to, give her up to, just when he would remember the little nuisance who tried to punch him yesterday, Koda. And he remembered how Koda was nowhere to be found before this. And so he's like speeding around at lightning speed, right? He's trying to find him a place fast. And that's when he sees him, Eraserhead. And he gives Unaraka over to Eraserhead. And he's like, she got stabbed by a villain. And then she got slashed in the stomach by a villain. And then she needs medical attention ASAP. Eraserhead noting this down and questioning where he was off to when Deku was saying, I got to go help the kid. I don't know where he's been this whole time, but with all these villains running around, I have to make sure he's safe. And Aizawa tries to stop Deku, but to no avail because he was already long gone. Deku gets to the cliff ravine. He sees it. A villain, huge, talking all types of nonsense, talking about how he's going to massacre this kid just like he did his parents. Deku, hearing this, is taken aback. He's appalled. He says, "What do you think you're doing?" The villain turns around and says, "Oh, wait, no, it can't be. Azuka Midoriya." Just on time. We got a picture of you and everything. Runner up in the UA Sports Festival. The boss wants to see you ASAP. But before that, I'm gonna crush you. You gotta be strong if you got that far, huh? And this is when Deku says, "Who do you think you are? Why are you talking to this kid like that?" This is when Muscular would tell him, he'd say, I don't know what I just said. He killed my parents, Koda would say. And Muscular would say, "That's right, I sure did. And now I'm gonna be and finish the whole family. Just watch me, kid." Muscular turns around, goes for a killing blow against Koda. He's defenseless, no one to help him. But Deku speed boosts Muscular, speed boosts Koda's perception, saves him. And before they even know it, he's already got Koda right next to him. Koda's taken aback by this. Muscular's shocked, but he's got a smile on his face. He's ready to have a serious fight. They begin to battle. Deku starts making hand signs like crazy. I'm not joking. This dude really topped into Jonin level like hand sign making speed. This dude fires his best fire style. Fireball, Majestic Destroyer Flame. He tries to literally kill Muscular here. He's using a full power one because he just sees how buff he is. Muscular raises muscle fibers, ready to block. And if you wouldn't believe me if I told you, they work. They actually suppress the Majestic Destroyer Flame, which can be seen from like all over the forest, like the bright flight of the flame. Like it literally engulfed like Dobby's flame. It was just so huge and big. All for One seeing this knew exactly who that came from and knew exactly where Deku's positioning was. He tells Shigaraki he's going to go and claim his new quirk and he can't wait to have it. All for One flies into the air and starts to dash over there at blinding speeds, trying to get to the action. We fast forward back to Deku versus Muscular, and Muscular is extremely damaged in severe condition, but he tanked the attack well enough to still be alive. He says, "Dang kid, you are strong. I see why the boss wants you. But I hope you know, all you did with that was just alerting the world we are." And Muscular charges back at Deku, trying to finish him before All For One can get there, or to gain some more battle, I guess. He just wants to battle, you know, and he knows that when All For One gets there, it's going to be over. Deku, hearing this, knowing he just alerted the boss, who he doesn't actually know is All For One yet, is kind of like, oh no, that's not good, because Koda is still here. Deku realizing that he needs to get Koda the heck up out of here. So Deku decides to jump up to Muscular, you know, between his guard, and then he just kicks him in the face. Once he does that, he's able to actually send Muscular back a bit because he's just so severely injured. With this opening, he jumps to Koda and he hightails it out of there before All For One can actually make it to the mountain. All For One tells Muscular, where is the brat? I know he was just up here, and I can tell based off your injuries that he got you. That brat snuck into my guard. Then after that, he took the kid and ran off. A kid, you say? Well then, I guess I'll have to chase him, or I guess I'll have to weed him out. I heard he's fond of a certain someone here. Let me see if I can get her to get him to draw out. All For One then takes off into the direction of where Aizawa and Unaraka is, while Deku is trying to find Aizawa himself to drop off another problem so that he can actually go help his classmates. On the way there, though, he runs into Todoroki and Bakugo, and Mr. Compress is about to touch Bakugo in that instant that Deku appears. He makes quick hand signs. He does Fireball Jutsu, and it hits Compress, obliterating him. He's knocked clean out. Dobby shows up and says, "Oh, so you can use fire too. I saw your work earlier on the cliff. I'm surprised the boss hasn't gotten to you already. I guess you got away before he could get there." Dobby tries his best to contend with Deku, but Todoroki shoots an ice geyser at him, and he gets jumped. Using Todoroki's ice geyser as a distraction, Deku sneaks him, and he puts a kunai to his neck, and he forces him to start spilling his information. Like, who the heck is the boss? And all this information, and what's going on. This is when Dobby starts to spill it all. He spills who the boss is, who's all here, how there are no moves, how this entire place is about to be incinerated in less than 5 seconds if he doesn't show himself to All For One. And Deku, hearing all this, is just shocked. He's shocked to know that All For One is real. He's shocked to know that him, Shigaraki, and Nomu's are here. So he knows that the pros are busy, and that the pros coming to help with this big catastrophe aren't going to be here for quite some time, and that they're going to literally need like the best pros to get out of this situation alive in the first place. Deku, hearing all this, just knows the situation is went at like the worst case scenario you could possibly imagine. Anyways, either way, he still knows that Koda's safer with Aizawa than where he is currently. To take out Dalby, though, He just simply knocks him out with a precise attack to in the back of his neck, knocking him out clean straight, taking out 2 villains. This is when Bakugo says, I could have took that guy, and I didn't need your help with the compressed dude, Deku, but thanks for the help anyways. Deku would nod, as this is when he would say, Bakugo, they're after you, but it seems they're after me as well. Yeah, I just heard. I wonder what we're gonna do. Well, one thing I know is that we need to tell Aizawa so he can tell us what to do. The best course of action would be to tell the teacher, so yeah, we need to go find him immediately and tell him how this situation is went to hell. This is when the top 3 in the class will roll off, drawing in other people from their class and taking down more and more villains. Not running into any no moves because honestly they were all being attacked by the pros. The pro like Mandalay and like the Pussycats, they're all trying to dealing with those right now. So it's not really their concern. Ultimately though, they find Aizawa, but it's not the way they wanted to find him. All for One had got to him first, and next to him he had Unaraka, who was injured. Toga right next to her, extorting her blood like she was doing before. Toga is smiling with manic glee, so excited because she has Unaraka's blood, because she's a blood maniac. With Deku seeing this, he's stunned. He's like, you again? Why you? But before he can even make a move, Shigaraki comes out of the force and says, well, if it isn't the kid with the fire techniques. Well, what do you think of this? It seems like the girl you like is all in our grasp. If you don't want anything bad to happen to her, you might want to lay back. This is when Deku immediately steps back, realizing the situation, and All for One, having Eraserhead also in his grasp, would say, if you don't want to see your teacher die, kid, you'll come over here nice and easy and give me your quirk. I've been fiending for that quirk because it looks like it can do multiple different things that could be extremely useful. Deku, hearing all this, knows he has no choice, because if he doesn't, things are going to go bad for his teammates. But this is just when Bakugo, being brash, would say, yeah, never. This is when he used an AP shot at All for One Shigaraki, and he used an AP shot at Toga. They all dodged the AP shot, and just before All for One can fire his attack at Eraserhead, it's no good. Deku's already gotten to him and took him out of the way. It destroys the forest behind them though, and Deku knew that this battle was about to get red hot. Hope you guys understood the Cuphead reference there. They get into a battle. Deku trying his best to hold All for One because Aizawa, well, he got injured, really badly from All for One, He's trying to capture him. But All for One's dumb because he didn't take Aizawa's quirk. I don't know why he didn't do that, but anyways, All for One starts battling with Deku, and it becomes very clear that All for One was on an entirely different level, using kinetic booster times plus. He just starts using a bunch of quirks, right? He punches him in the stomach, right? And Deku gets hit flying through like 7 trees. And he gets knocked out almost immediately. Like, Deku is not some crazy tank. Like, he gets back up, and he's like, I have no choice. I have to go. And this is when he gets back and just sees Unaraka. She's like, she's about to literally die from blood loss. Like, Toga's just giving her no rest. Like, Toga is just, like, stabbed a new wound and everything. And it looks like Unaraka's fading. He's just staring at her like, no. Unaraka, Mr. Aizawa, Bakugo and Todoroki, who are now engaged with Shigaraki, and it doesn't really like they're doing too well because he's getting help from Kurogiri and he's getting help from Splinter as well. Hope I said his name right. So yeah, everything is going really bad for these guys. It's looking like it might be wraps, but just at that moment, Deku felt it. He felt what was underneath his skin, which was waiting to be unleashed, and it finally awakens. Deku's eyes turn to a completely different shade. They start to reach a completely different spiral. They start turning and spinning, and All for One could tell he was different immediately. In that instance, he changed. And when he changed, he gained new abilities. Deku immediately rushed at All for One at full speed. All for One unsure what changed in Deku, but he knew he was dangerous. This is when he starts building up an attack to take out Deku. He larges up his greatest attack he can. That big arm thing he threw at All Might, he throws it at Deku, and he thinks Deku's gonna die. He thinks he's done, and he'll just extract his quirk after he's dead, and he's a dead corpse. But to his shock, it goes straight through Deku. It doesn't even hurt him. It attacks the landscape behind, destroying pretty much all of it. If anybody was back there, they're cooked, by the way, but nobody was back there. But yeah, anyways, Deku went through it. All for One shocked. He's saying, wait, how could you have possibly survived that? That attack was strong enough to take out All Might. But before he can really even say these things out loud, Deku was in front of him, and he says, with one word, a bunch of information hitting his head all at the same time, he just knew what this was. He say, Kamui! And just like that, All for One starts to spiral a weird teleportation style technique starts happening, and it starts curving All For One into a separate reality, the Kamui dimension, Deku would call it, and it would send All For One there. Deku knowing exactly what he had just done, thanks to the information that hit his head. He had just put All For One in his Kamui, basically trapping him there for eternity, or unless Deku wanted to release him, which he would when he got the time to actually release him, into Tartarus, but not for now. He's trapped there for now. This is when Deku would go around to all the remaining villains and put them in Kamui. When Kurogiri tried to warp Deku away, he would literally just swallow him into Kamui, basically ending the threat immediately. All of the League of Villains get thrown into Deku's Kamui dimension, and yeah, they all get cooked. Deku then seeks out medical attention, and when it comes to the Nomus, Deku literally just Kamui's them into the dimension the minute he sees them. He goes around the forest, low-key just doing this over and over again. Just Kamuiing everything, putting all the villains into his dimension. Deku now, using his ability so much though, because this is a Sharingan ability, his eyes are bleeding like crazy. And not to mention the fact that this man is exhausted, but he saved everyone. No casualties, despite how severe so many people's injuries are. Deku, the hero, would fall unconscious, and this would mark the end of the UA sports. What the heck am I talking about? The UA train. What is this arc? I don't know why, but I just literally forgot the training camp arc. And with this being said, this is when all the League of Villains get thrown into Tartarus. No joke. Deku releases them in Tartarus, and they immediately get restrained by pro heroes, with all the strongest ones surrounding everyone. And Deku took out each villain over time. So it's like basically when it came to All For One, he got put in a place where he could do nothing to anyone, and that he would get instantly restrained. And they had All Might and Endeavor and everybody there just to make sure that this man could not do absolutely anything. So he was definitely cooked. But with that being said, all the League of Villains get captured and taken out by Deku's Kamui right here and right now. But yeah, that's a story low-key for another day, because Deku was out for like 3 weeks. This dude, after using his Kamui that many times, yeah, he was low-key like almost dead, dude. Like, and his eyes were bleeding. But thanks to Recovery Girl and honestly just some time, everyone there made a full recovery, including Deku. After getting out of the hospital, his classmates would question him, along with Aizawa and All Might and Nezu especially, about what he did and how he even took down all the League of Villains, or what even happened. They just want to know what happened. This is when Deku would explain it, how his eyes start spinning a new pattern, how he gained the abilities of Kamui, and how he basically has new powers. One that allows him to phase, and the other one that allows him to literally summon people into a separate dimensional plane. But not only that, he says that he also has the ability to activate that on people from a distance, but he didn't actually use that application yet. And actually, just because I'm going to say he didn't tell him, because Deku this whole time has not been giving everybody all the information. But a partial truth, once again, he tells them all they need to know about the ability, even though that actually is the best part of the ability, if we're being honest. So, yeah. Anyways, after this happens, we would then see the next part basically play out, where we would see them get their provisional license, which I'm not going to cover because, yeah, they would get those. And not only would they get the provisional license, this is when they would get to fight the Big Three, which I'm actually going to be covering in this timeline because I think it's a little bit more interesting than it would be in my other what ifs. Deku over this time mastering Kamui to its absolute completion. And like I said, Deku pretty much wrapped the League of Villains already by throwing them all in Tartarus by just using his Kamui. I'm sorry, but Kamui is so broken that's kind of why I didn't give it to Deku throughout half this story. Maybe I'll redo this story where I just give him Kamui off the rip just in case y'all are curious. But dude, like, it's so broken. Like, nobody can do anything to this guy. Like, and they literally would just get instantly taken out by it. Like, I had to wait to give it to him. I just couldn't give it to him off rip, guys. I'm sorry. But if you have a problem with that, then tell me in the comments. But all that aside, we then see Deku, like, as he's walking and he sees somebody in the ground and they're like, "Hey, what's up, trouble kid?" And he's like, "Hey, what's up?" But this is when he looks back down again. He's like, "Wait, what the heck? How is a face talking?" And this is when he'd be introduced to Mirio Togata, who would tell him that he's like an upperclassman in class 3A, I think. And he was like, "I heard you're a lot of trouble, but I also heard you're pretty strong." And this would ultimately lead up to the point where they introduced themselves in front of the class, and he basically challenged the whole class. Basically, Mirio easily takes out the whole classic stuff. Bakugo, who would read his movement and wouldn't fall for his schemes. But Mirio's experience would power even Bakugo, because him and Deku don't get in a fight in this timeline. So yeah. But nonetheless, what we would then see happen is very clear. We would see Mirio try to hit Deku, and Deku already knowing that Mirio had permeation and what that meant, because, you know, Deku's actually pretty smart. He would know that this means that Kamui is his only chance at taking down or even countering Mirio. So when Mirio goes in for an attack at Deku, he would know he would go for the fake, so he waits for it. But when Mirio actually goes for a punch, Deku activates Kamui, and Mirio's punch goes through Deku. And that's when, like, Mirio's like, wait, what? I thought I turned off my permeation right here. Why did my attack just go through him? But this is when Deku would sidestep out of the way of Mirio's attack, and that's when he would activate Kamui, like sucking him into his space. You know what I mean? And even though Mirio is in permeation, he's literally getting pulled into another, like, reality. I don't really think Mirio can stop Deku from doing this. So Mirio would just get put in the Kamui dimension, and that would be GG's. Because, yeah, once you're in Kamui, the fight's over. So, yeah, this is when Deku will release Mirio from Kamui, because he's not trying to kill him, you know what I mean? So he releases him. But nonetheless, Mirio was like, wow, I've never met anybody that could so completely and absolutely crush my ability. My ability normally does the complete opposite. And you even have the ability to phase. Deku would explain how Kamui works to Mirio, because their abilities have similar properties. Basically, he tells him that the way he uses Kamui is that he puts himself partially in a separate reality, allowing him to phase through attacks when somebody tries to hit him. And he says that he also has the ability to literally suck people into that reality if they get close enough to him. So yeah, he still wouldn't tell anybody that he has the power to use that from a distance, but yeah, to each his own, partial truths and whatnot. Anyways, holding back. So this is when Mirio, so impressed by Deku, would invite him to Night Eye's agency. And because he's not a one-for-all user like in the main timeline, Night Eye would accept them with no challenge. Ultimately, one day they'd be going on a patrol when they run into a little girl with a horn on her head. And she'd say, help me, please. And this is when he would notice it. A guy coming up out of the alley. This would be none other than Sasaki, or otherwise known by his villain name, Overhaul. And he won his little daughter back. But Deku immediately realizing, dude, you just the Sharingan, he would be able to see all these different incisions on Eri, and he would know right off rip that this was not any daughter of his, and that he could not let Eri go back. This is when Deku would start a line of questioning with precise, like, you know, allocation. Like, he's asking the best questions humanly possible to try to put this dude in, like, cuffs. And Overhaul is just trying to get Eri to come back. He's just kind of ignoring Deku's questions. Like, every time he gives a good question, he's kind of just like, listen, Eri, just come back. And Eri, you know, she's scared, but, you know, she doesn't want these people to die. So this is when, like, she would start trying to go back. This is when Deku would snatch her arm and say, yeah, that's not happening. And this is when Overhaul would say, who do you think you're talking to? This is when Overhaul would immediately try to attack both Deku and Mirio. He puts his hand on the ground and summons like some like earth spikes out, because, you know, his like powers like matter manipulation. And to his shock, Deku and Mirio both take no damage from this, because, well, obviously Mirio has permeation and Deku now has Kamui. So Deku now for the first time showcases his ability to literally like use Kamui from far away. Now, I don't necessarily know if like you can use Kamui like far away, and I understand like it's a snipe, but I don't really know if he can use it to summon you into the Kamui dimension from far away. But I'm just gonna be saying Deku can do that. So he activates Kamui from far away. He uses Kakashi's variant of it, basically, that Kakashi had of Obito's eye, and he basically traps him in the Kamui dimension. And yeah, that's GG's. So after capturing Overhaul, Eri is saved. She's put in UA, and basically they raid Shigi Hasakai, and they find out all the incriminating evidence that Overhaul was, yeah, just indeed a really sick, morbid human. And after this happens, low key, fast forward, Deku becomes the greatest hero ever because he has Obito's abilities. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you, yeah, that's actually what happens. Because covering everything else, nothing else in the story goes like it actually does. Deku literally would just go on with Bakugo to do what they wanted to do as kids and become the number 1 and 2 like heroes. Like Deku would be number 1, Bakugo would be number 2, Mirio would be number 3, Mount Lady would be number 4, and if I had to say, Todoroki would be number 5. And those would be the top 5 heroes. And the reason why this would happen is because Deku wouldn't have to fight All For One or Shigaraki or any of that stuff again. None of the stuff that happens in the main timeline happens from this point forward because they've already been taken care of. And after overall, well, there's no more villains anyway, so there's no point in even continuing the story. So that's it. That's how the story ends. So yeah, that's the end of What If Deku had Obito's abilities. I hope you guys enjoyed the What If. But man, this What If did take a while. Now, if you didn't know this, I'm going to say this out loud. This What If was not scripted completely like they usually are. But nonetheless, I think it just still turned out pretty well. Of course, if you guys do decide that you wanted me to give Obito like Kamui way earlier than I actually did in this video, especially considering I barely had him use it anyways, then, you know, put that in the comment section. You know, I'll see. But if not, then either A, I'll just redo this much later on if I feel like it, or B, something else will happen. But considering I'm trying to go in order, I'll probably do a Asta What If next. So if you guys want a Asta What If, well, not if you want it, but tell me your What If ideas in the comment section, basically, is what I'm saying. Because that's the best way I know what you want to see. I know somebody asked me for what if Luffy was a hybrid Saiyan. So yeah, that's going to be my next One Piece What If. But nonetheless, if you guys did enjoy this What If, I hope you did. And I hope you guys are having a great new year. Fun fact, I actually ended up having to record the rest of this What If on a different day. So ignore when I said at the start of the video that this video was going up like the day of New Year's or like the January 1st. Because clearly it's not. You can clearly see it's not. So yeah. But sorry about that. I really am. But hopefully you guys still found a way to enjoy this. Hope you guys enjoyed. And I just really wanted you guys to like this What If. I really like this What If. I think I did a really good job. I don't know. And I'll catch you guys next time. God bless. Thank you guys. Thanks for listening. I'm out.